I'm just quickly talking to Christian here. Christian, explain where you are.
I'm in hospital, just about to go home after being released with my release papers and my medication from a severe, deadly attack of pneumonia.
Yeah, I was really... So obviously, I found out a few days ago that Christian wasn't very well and a bit upset. We've spoken a little bit over the last few days, and what you said was that the pneumonia had gone into your body and was in your shoulder.
Yep, that's what I was told.
Wow, I've never heard of that before.
I'd never heard of it either, but I'm going to research it just because it's almost like it's... What is it? Is it now a nanotechnology that impresses itself into certain parts of the body? Because I've always believed that it's in the blood and it circulates around your bloodstream and poisons your blood. But then again, I may be wrong.
Well, you are a bit of a special case anyway, aren't you, Christian? I mean, Mickey and you and Mickey are special cases because you've both died and lived. You've come back. Yeah. So
somebody doesn't want us on the other side yet. Seriously.
In 2019, Christian was asked to take this injection, which he didn't really want to do, but he took it, and then after that, it gave him a heart attack, and then he had another heart attack, and this is just pre-2019, and we all know what happened in 2019 with the old face whacker things, and yeah, and then when you came out of that, you just got home. And then he found that we were going into lockdown. He thought it was. He thought the whole world.
Irony is not the word.
Yeah.
Irony. Jim Morrison says, "Come on through to the other side." They don't want me on the other side. They really don't.
The thing that's quite incredible is that Christian died twice through these heart attacks, but didn't. He was survived. I mean, obviously, he's a good friend of mine, and I'm very proud of him. So I was really upset when you turned around and said that you were in hospital.
Me too.
But you think that you were given, you know what everybody's had, the thing in the arm this last few years.
Yeah.
But Christian thinks that he got given it. He was like a dummy run.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Quite possibly.
So you didn't even know that you'd been given it?
Well, for some reason, I'm still here.
Do you think this round had anything to do with it, Christian? With what had happened to you before?
Who knows? It's quite possible. With the times that we're in, and the silliness, the lies, the deceit, with everything else that's been done in recent years, you know, we know that now for sure that the likes of Boris and Rishi Sunak, they're all just gangsters living in paradise. You know, at the top.
That's about right.
That's true.
Especially with how much money he's got. Rishi, he's the richest man in politics, I think.
Yeah, this is it. It's all about who commands the big doulas, the big mahulas, you know. But then, to them, it's just something in the bank, something on a screen, you know. To them, it's what it is. It's the machine that we live by, and it's called money. You know, and it has no sense, no feeling, no thought, no forgiveness, no yield. It has nothing. The way I see it, the only thing it has is materialism. That has nothing of creative power, really, when it comes down to it.
No.
The creative power is between people understanding and relating to each other to the point that there is no discussion between them. And that's more powerful than any money in my book. And it always will be.
Yeah, I have to say that when I spoke to Christian the other day, he did sound quite weak, but you do sound a little bit better now. But you're going to have to take it easy when you go home, Christian. Or wherever you go. You're going to your nephew's for a few days, aren't you? So just take it easy and be a lord. I want a cup of tea! Yeah, thanks!
Be that grumpy old man, that's not me.
Oh, I need the cup of tea. No, I really need it. Yeah, I'm sure they'll look after you.
Anyway, Karen, I gotta go because we've got to make tracks and say goodbye to a couple of people before I leave here.
Okay, 1 second. We've only just done a couple of minutes. We'll say goodbye to this, but I'll say goodbye to you afterwards. Thank you, Christian, for telling us that you're okay, and heaven is that you're going home.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. everybody, I'm here this afternoon with James. Hello, James.
Hi. Hi.
It's been a few weeks, hasn't it? I can't remember the last hangout we did.
It was a part 1 of something, and there was going to be a part 2. I don't know. I can't even remember.
Oh, well, this is part 2, isn't it, James? James, what is the subject we're going to be, or are you going to be talking about today?
In the broadest sense, water.
Water. Right, we've made a little video, so go on then, James, because there's obviously different states of water.
Right, so we'll go to the metaphysical to start with. So you've got Jesus on the cross. So you've got a puncture mark through each palm, so there's 2. You've got a puncture mark through the ankles, so you've got 2 ankles, so that's 4. So the 5th piercing is the heart with a spear, and out comes blood and water. Now, do you remember I said before about if you donate a sample of blood, it can be moved 50 miles away?
Yeah.
And it responds with no time or space loss between the donor and how they react to various stimuli, and the blood reacts the same.
Mm.
That applies to water as well.
I know they can make water that when you drink it, you're still thirsty.
Right.
So that's changing it, isn't it? Because water's there to quench our thirst, not to make us thirsty. So they've obviously done something to the water. It's got memory, hasn't it? And they've obviously done something.
Well, certainly I get a lot of what you'd call spiritual downloads when I'm in the shower because it's running water. So
yeah,
it's
water's
flowing.
good for you, isn't it? It's good for your senses. It clears your senses out.
Well, it's debatable because that's recycled water.
Mm.
But this is going to lead somewhere and tie pretty much everything together.
So do the states of what the water is then, or all the states? Because obviously we've got pictures up, so we're showing fresh water.
So you've got 4 states to water. You'll know it as ice in its solid state, water in its liquid state, air in its gas state, and beyond that, which you can't see, is ether. But this is sort of central to everything. What you're looking for is not a thing, because there is not a thing in the middle. This is even shown...
What do you mean? You're either ice or you're either a gas? You mean that?
No.
What?
The source of everything, the source at the centre of everything, there is absolutely nothing. The channel's called Theora Apotheosis. It's Ken Wheeler. He shows beyond any doubt that the centre of a magnet, there is zero magnetism. Same as if you cut a pip of an apple open and you sort of peel the layers. There's nothing in the middle, and this pattern applies across everything. Now, if the blood can respond with no time or space loss, what about water? Now, bear in mind that we are...
Can I say one thing? I thought that blood, even though it's got water in it, was more like a plasma.
Yeah. So you've got the water side of things, which in the 4 states, and nothing's disconnected. So you've got the waters above, the waters below. And of course the water can change state to ether. So it's quite correct that it is humanity that is causing everything, because it's just a frequency, it's a modality with the water. But the interaction, the most obvious one that most people hopefully can detect is you go outside and then the sun comes out and you feel those sun rays. That's basically it's illumination. It's not light, but it's you get a feeling from it. A lot of people have difficulty sleeping on full moons. There's a magnetic interaction going on there. So water sort of permeates in all all its different modalities
Well,
through
air
everything.
air is watered down water, isn't it? I mean, it has to be moist,
Yeah,
otherwise
well-
we wouldn't be able to live here, because our lungs need the moisture, otherwise we wouldn't be able to breathe.
Well, look at it from another way. I mean, it's quite sort of openly admitted that you had aerials on your roofs, and the broadcast went through the air, and they even say the program is on air.
Mm.
Oh yeah, I mean, so as we're
So
wherever
basically,
you're
you have to
sitting and
take
listening-
life pretty literally, then, don't you?
Well, you think about it. All those radio stations on long wave, medium wave, very high frequency, ultra high frequency, or short wave, they're all whizzing through the air, so they're passing through you all the time. Then you've got Wi-Fi and everything on the top.
It's quite amazing
It's
we can
just
live
different.
here, really.
It all travels through the ether, the whole lot. It's amazing. So
Is that how we can be telepathic, then?
pretty much, yeah. Because it's thought waves in the ether.
Because sometimes,
Now-
if my children haven't liked me, and then you think, one day you think, oh, thank God he's let go. I can feel it. He's let go of that problem. Good. And everything. And I can tell when my children like me again through the... I don't know what it is. The ether tells me things.
It's an inner knowing. Both intellect and fear are finite. There's a point where they both stop, where they can't take you any further. In this reality, it's even further compartmentalized. So a prime example that comes to mind, Bill Donahue talks about this. I can't remember the name, but it was a doctor or somebody who was sent from Harvard, and they were sent to see the shaman in the rainforest in action, and all the things they're learning about at Harvard in medicine. They're seeing the proof that these shaman can diagnose people and they can cure them. But the problem comes when the doctors they're seeing the proof. They know that it works. They've seen the evidence of it. So now they're asking the shaman, well, how do you know this? Bear in mind, these people haven't been to school. They've definitely not been to university. Their answer is the plants told us. Science can't accommodate that answer, even though the facts are there to prove it. All it is a synchronization between chlorophyll, between the human body and the plants, and it's information being exchanged. It's what is known as an inner knowing. It's not like this reality teaches. You've got to remember lines and repeat facts and figures.
Is this how they
you're
harvest
intelligent.
us, James? Through the ether?
No, the way they harvest us, the way this system works like a magnet, it creates its own food. And the clue is, if you're faced with something like a very rich chocolate gatto, some people will say, oh, I can't eat that, that's too rich for me. Now think of energy as a food. If you're on a very low vibration, which is the perfect vibration for this vampiristic
System that
energy
we're in,
to
yes,
digest.
yes, I agree. They're vampires.
Your only sort of what would appear to be quick fix options would be alcohol or drug dependency, because you're not facing and dealing with what your body is telling you there's something seriously wrong, and that's why you feel uncomfortable. So the quick fix is which the short route is never the right route. That's the addiction trap, because you're lifted up, you're taken out of facing this external reality and all the fears and worries of it. But of course, that effect wears off and you come crashing down, but you don't go back to where you were, you drop lower. So now you've got to try and pick yourself up, and before you know it, it's an addiction and a very difficult sort of rabbit hole to get out of. I mean, rabbit holes aren't just about theories and things. There's the system rabbit holes of various traps, actions to lure you in. Basically, this is just a giant computer game. and nobody has an unfair advantage as such of complete past life memories or something. So you have to wipe the slate clean when you come back in again. And then you have to learn it all again. As Alan Watts puts it, when you know who you are and you can create and do anything and everything, there is no limitations. The opposite of creativity is boredom. So this button mark surprise. So eventually you press this button mark surprise and here we are.
Oh. I had an experience a bit like that when I could say that. I mean, I don't know. Floss comes with me to Mickey and we do different things. Ellie took her out today. But in the past, when I went for walks, I would say with the person I was with, can you feel it? There's something not right. There's just something not right. I can feel it. And then America got these really big plumes, you know, these ice plumes. But I could feel it. I said, can you feel it? There's something wrong.
Well, astrologically, you've got the third of three squares. I think it's Chiron and Mercury. Don't quote me on the planet names, but it's a very, excuse me, it's a very almost static, like nothing's happening feeling. But it's reflected in nature where...
Well, sometimes I don't think you always understand it, James, but you know it's there, and later on you go, oh, that's why I was feeling like that. That's what I meant about my son. Oh, that's why I was feeling like that. Oh, my son's got over it, whatever it is. One of my sons, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it as an example. But, you know, I can feel it, some of these things. They come to me through... I just feel it. It's like a motorway system out there, if you know what I mean.
So the question is to find this common denominator. Well, that's the water in all four forms. And nothing is separate and disconnected. So with water being able to morph between those four states, and another way of expressing it would be to say vibration or frequency. I saw a very beautiful example of this Sunday night, a gathering of the Indian tribe locally. There was 23 of us in a circle. And I could sort of detect almost like a cosmic egg of energy, this combined energy. It was beautiful. It's like, yeah, we can do anything. There's nothing that can actually harm you. As long as you're on a higher vibration, because this energy can't feed on you. It's difficult to digest. It works like a stomach. If you put a raw steak down in your stomach, and then you put an apple, what do you reckon the gut's going to go for? It's going to take the easier option, the thing that's easier to break down and get in the bloodstream. So it will go for the apple. Put something sugary,
that sounds
like a donut.
awful, James, when you think of that, and then we know what they do to us. Because when you give us this rotten food, because somebody said to me the other day, well, the reason everybody's dying right now is our terrible food system. And then you think, I remember when we looked it up, they were giving, you know, poisoning in children's cereals, and if that goes into the bloodstream, I think about it like that. You are what you eat, in a sense, then, aren't you?
Where nature is in a continuous state of flux, so it depends it depends on the perspective. I mean, if you've got minute traces of things, these bodies are pretty resilient. They will adapt and overcome such things anyway. But also see it's a... You've got to be cruel to be kind. It's like a mercy killing. It's going to be in the region of about 4 billion. Cruel. Well, see. And they're not going to be able to not see it. It'll be so in their face that they're not going to be able to...
Can I ask you another thing very quickly? Do you think the blood, everybody having different blood groups makes a difference?
Well, I would say it's... You don't put all the eggs in one basket, so there's a sort of different ways of doing things. So, I mean, personally, I think the simplest answer is when you think of Sirius A, B, and Orion's belt, so you've got ABO, which is the blood system. So whether there's some connection, I'm not saying in the sense of the physical and the ET side, but it just seems strange. Why wasn't it called ABC blood groups? Why A, B, and O? And why can you have a combination of A and B, but not AO or BO? It's I don't know the answers to the whys, but when you consider how there's no time or space difference with blood, and I would say that's equally true of water, and it doesn't matter what state that water goes into, whether it be air, ether, or ice, there is still frequency transmission going through everything.
Yeah.
And if you look at the
and
flip
don't
side
forget,
of things,
air is energy anyway.
yeah, you've got the flip side version of this with a thing called the education system, which is basically a filter. It's filtering out those that it can put in the lowest vibration, that are sort of the no-hopers that will get drugs. That's a source. I mean, consider why would they be so hard if it was this thing that was trying to kill all of humanity, which is ridiculous because it kills its food source off. It doesn't want that. It wants you on low vibration, so you're an easy feed. It's what it's used to eating. It's a bit like the inner child. It doesn't want change, and it wants to keep itself alive, regardless of whether it's what people would think of as AI. The trouble is with these labels, we get this thing like AI, you think computers. Well, what about a biological computer? I mean, these bodies are a design, so therefore they are a form of technology, not a metal or circuit boards, and yet we've got circuits inside of us. We've got
and also we've got an electronic, an electric pulse in our hearts and our brains.
Yeah.
It's all a bit crazy, isn't it? When you think about that, we're living in all this free energy. It's going through you. You're breathing it in. I mean, obviously you need the oxygen. It's an energy form as well. Imagine when they're polluting it and doing things to it and putting harp all over it and all over your heads. What that's going to do?
Well, again, you've got
drink that water. System. We're putting it on tonight. You're going to be vibrating. It's that kind of thing, isn't it? Sort of.
You've got this beautiful exchange system with trees. We breathe in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide, which is the food for the trees, which turns it back into oxygen. That's the most perfect recycling system, and perfect sort of mutual of two different life forms. That's amazing. That's such an amazing thing to have this experience. But you've got this filtering system. Now, if you were running a, say, program of what's the common denominator for everything that I need to go for first? Well, water.
And that's really strange because that's kind of what's round you when you're pregnant as well with the baby. It's called, well, actually it's their pee, but it's called the sac. And then remember you said we have to sort of dive from being pregnant, the baby, to being born into this world and breathing the air and not breathing in the water.
Yeah. Well, the amazing
which is their pee, but it's sterile, isn't it?
Depending on what website you look at, it's like what percentage of the human body is water, and some say 60, some say 70%. But then when you get to the organs, the lungs are 83% water. The heart and the brain are both 73% because the heart has a cellular brain structure. That is where the real brain is. It's in the heart. So that's when it's about.
Yeah, because your heart tells. I was amazed when I watched that. The heart right, she's got to cut some cells. Go down there and cover the cut up, and the heart does all these things. And also, one side it's veins, and one side it's an artery.
Yeah, you've got the red shift, blue shift, at the outward push of the red of the artery, and the blue is the inward return.
I mean, it's obvious. It's in our veins. It's blue. It's not red, is it? It's blue. I wonder what we'd look like if we had a red bit in there. We probably wouldn't look much difference, but when you look at your veins, it looks kind of, doesn't it?
I'm not going to say to anybody to try this because you've probably all had the experience. When
That's
you get
the
a
love
cut,
colour. Claudio was saying blue is for love. Well, we've got love flowing through our veins then. It's blue.
yeah, well, you think when you get a cut, the body repairs itself. It just heals. It seals back
Yeah,
together.
do you know what
again.
we are? We're Terminators. It's just that I
Yeah.
can do it in minutes. It might take a bit longer. I cut my leg a few months ago. I cut it quite badly. And I tried to ignore it for a while. And then one day the dog licked it. And this thing just was not healing. And then one day it did. And I'm so lucky that I don't have a big gash on my leg. And my body healed all that absolutely perfectly. So a bit like an Arnie, a bit like a Terminator.
Yeah.
We forget that, don't we? That we heal our body. Our bodies heal ourselves.
Yes. Also, there's a sort of everything's anthropomorphized. So you've got this character in history or mythology, depending on which way you want to look at it, called Mary the Virgin. What that actually is the subconscious. It's a virgin in the sense that the thoughts are without any prejudgment. When it talks about the man leads and the woman is subservient to the man, it's the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. So the conscious mind is what you feel about something, and that feeling, the subconscious makes no distinction. It doesn't judge whether it's good or bad. So if you feel fear, that will serve you more fear. If you've got worries, that will think, okay, you want more worry. That's what it'll communicate back. It's like an ever-loving, dutiful wife. This is the divine feminine. It's the 90% of the human brain or the mind. It's the subconscious or the superconscious. So the trick is to cross the Red Sea. This is the alchemical union. So you've got the conscious and the subconscious working in harmony. And the only way they can do that is by shifting and seeing the mind as like, or the mind's eye as like the lighthouse. But where you need to go is actually to the center of the heart and come from there. And it really does change this world. This is the
Is that a part of like love?
Yes, it's the ultimate. I think it was James True. Some people, and it does come across as controversial, but controversial a different perspective. And if it's like, oh wow, it's like, it's good that if you're feeling triggered by anything you're saying, it's like, why am I triggered? I need to go inside myself and why am I feeling triggered? Because what you've got a presentation externally. It could be solid or it could be just on a screen. But it's something that external, which has now implanted a feeling inside you. Now, depending on how you feel, you can create all sorts of blockages in the body. It's stuck energy. So
yeah, well, that's what dis-ease, isn't it? Dis-ease in yourself.
Yeah, but the answer is also in that by flipping the polarity. If something can be imported in and it gives us a feeling and has a physical effect on us by how we process a thing, what about if we're projecting out and how we can change the external?
Yeah, that's what this hangout with Claudio was about, James, because he was basically saying this whole thing is happening, but it isn't something that it's been happening for the last few years. And what it is hopefully when you're outside and it finishes in April, that you're full of much more love, and that's what you deal the world with. That's what Claudio was saying in our hangout the other day.
Well, I can't point to anything.
So basically, if you're more in love, or love yourself around you, then life changes anyway. And I was going, oh yeah, but you know the news. Claudio said, sister, that doesn't affect your life. But I know it doesn't really affect my life or yours. We're not, we're not watching it. It's not going. But I just watch it and make videos because people get so caught up in it, and none of that's real. That's what I worry about, because obviously they're trying to get the people in, aren't they? Yes, as long as they believe in the lowest form state here, we've got them now. They just go to the supermarket and go home after work. And they just want, is it NPC people?
The world is a stage. So the way to conduct in this world is to become a top actor and be very discerning. It's like everything that external view is being presented as a script, and it's like basically metaphorically or metaphysically it's saying, do you want to appear in this reality show? Do you want to appear in this soap? Do you want? It's like, no, I'm a discerning actor. I'm going to appear in anything. I'm going to appear. I mean, they played out physically blockbusters. I mean, that's why all the old world structures have been torn down. They're blockbusters in that film show. Everything is a series of repeats. I am of the idea before.
Yeah, this is in this video I made the other day. What he was trying to say was he was trying to sort it out in the system, and I don't want to be in the system, but what he was saying is they've managed to put in all these people that you would never ever want as your prime minister or president. You just wouldn't want them there, but they put them in. Carry on. Good. I'm glad he's going because he is an idiot. That thing.
No. The question is why.
Well, so I'm saying, like, Boris, you've got Liz Truss, who was the guy, I can't remember what his name now, but he's a man playing a woman, and then you've got Stupid Rishi, and, he's rich, isn't he, supposedly, but you've got all these people that you'd never really want in your life. There they are, they're what is in command. And I mean, who wants Biden? Always going on about how terrible Putin is. You know, do you see him wanting peace? He doesn't want peace. And I think he's, if you look at the structure, Putin's flying double eagles, so Putin must be an emperor. So obviously Biden's the character's feeling left out.
This is just setting the stage for a big show called The Third Crusade.
Yes.
This follows the Inquisition tactic of bringing a swinging blade down. So you've had a swing to the left-wing politics. Now it's starting to swing back the other way.
Yeah, this is always their games, isn't it?
What you're going to get, and you're going to get from the Bible Belt, the southern states, you're going to have a Christian Baptist Reich. You're going to have a repeat show of Nazi Germany in the 1930s.
After they said we would never have that again.
No, it will look like a golden age. The rest of the world will follow suit. Everything will go extreme right wing. This is all to set the stage for this third crusade. It's all about divide and conquer. A lot of people are going to fall for it because what they've had over the last few years is a foreshadowing. It's the pendulum swing the other way, give you a bit of hardship. It's also a replay of power outages from 1973 in the 3-day week. We're
just replaying history over and over again. James, because are we changing the subject? Or are we still going to talk about water, or do you think that's enough on water?
Well, water goes much further.
You want to carry on with water?
I said about Mary, and it comes from the Latin word meaning water, basically. Hence, you've got maritime.
1 second. So maritime law, yes. James.
Well, that leads straight away down a completely different course, a different stream, and I don't need to go over about cash flows and liquid assets. I think everybody sort of has got a pretty good idea how the water terminology, the river Thames, the river Thames, and all this, and banking, river banks, and all. So you can see the one side of it. That's like the negative polarity side of water, but there's a positive side. So as we collectively begin to gather, and it doesn't need a lot, to be honest, it has a direct effect on the water. There's been various things on YouTube and I think Facebook of certain rivers drying up. That is the waters beginning to gather because we are beginning to gather. This is how we change the world. This is a war of spirits. It's played out with physical outplays, but it's internally is how we change it. We have this we have this phenomenal power inside each and every one of us. If you'd have asked me a year
1
ago,
second, James. Someone's knocked at my door. 1 second. Right, someone knocked at the door with an Amazon parcel, and Floss hasn't let go yet. He's gone, Floss! Right, carry on. Sorry, James.
yeah, so you've got this negative system side of use of water and how they follow the pattern with it. But as collectively more start to question this reality and start changing the polarity within inside themselves, you sort of cross the Red Sea, as it were. I mean, it's like Moses that leads the people out of Egypt, which is the material world. This is
that's what I was going to say,
metaphor.
James. I was thinking about things because you and I know that we still have a plentiful source of water, don't we? And then I forgot. I went to the island of Kos. It's a Greek island. It's below Corfu. So there's Corfu, Kos. There's a Zante. There's a couple more islands. There's a couple more islands there, and one of the islands is where Jack Onassis got. It was his islands. So there's houses there. You can see her house, his house, and all that. Anyway, what it was is we went to this place and we went in this water, and what they were trying to explain to you is when you look through the water, it looks like you could put your hands on the stones. And they said, well, that's like a block of flats away down there under the water. And then what it was is I've got the little booklet, and it explains that the seawater comes in, and once it goes through all the minerals in the rocks, and then when it collects in where we were, it's fresh water. But that's because the minerals have taken all the salt and everything out. So this is how we get a constant flow of water, because the land is also cleaning the water.
Right. This basically is sort of encapsulated in the nursery rhyme about Humpty Dumpty. And it tells you in that all the king's horses and all the king's men could not put but it doesn't tell you who can. We are that cosmic egg. Collectively, we are that Humpty Dumpty that's fallen, the fall of man, as it were. So as we come back together, has a direct effect, an impact on the water, like with the blood. Now you imagine let's go just with the biblical one, but there was more than one flood. Imagine living in a world which is basically like a tropical rainforest, where it's just wet, damp, humidity, moisture is in the air. Hence we've got 83% moisture or water content in our lungs. Considering we breathe air, that's a very high percentage of water in the lungs. So you've got this canopy, like the inside of a lens over an eye. The water is like magnetically stuck, 99%. So you've got this natural order, this Garden of Eden type environment. I mean, it's pretty much like the rainforests where you see these great big broadleaf trees, because the environment is right. But if that water was to collapse, and that water has all come down and it's basically done the Humpty Dumpty, and it's gone into water droplets, you've got a twofold thing going on here. The surviving humanity is now already starting to be herded onto smaller land masses, islands. So you've got the physical outplay of the sheep being herded. You've also got a very different type of water that is now having contaminants in. How are you going to get rid of it? I would suggest this is what the Starfort system, grid system all over the earth was to do, was filtering. So those things that people think are gun slots or arrow slots in those half circles, they are the first form of the filtering. Now, coupled with that, you've got to re-energize that water. This is where you need cathedrals and church machines to re-energize the water. Hence, you've got the font and everything inside these machines and their energy devices to re-energize the water by collecting the ether. So, because we're now living in a post-flood world, and a post-diluvian world, So our water is very different today than how it originally was. So man has had to adapt.
And not just that, we have different types of water, don't we? Like, the water around the UK is very dense. Other water might not be so dense, so it's darker. I mean, I've been to Denmark where they say the North Sea meets the East Sea, and the North Sea is much more aggressive than the East Sea, but the East Sea is an inland sea almost. And, you can go there and see it, but you can see the different colours in the water. But anyway, sorry, carry on, James.
Yeah, so you've also got this Gulf Stream source. I mean, it's funny, you've got a Gulf Stream, and then we talk about the Gulf War. It's like a very different area.
I know.
So the Gulf of Mexico is basically, that's your Fertile Crescent. I suggested on a video that the origin of this present form of humanity is Oregon. The origin is Oregon, and going with the etymology, well, it ties in. What we're told is the New World is actually the Old World. I can't prove this, but I know that they haven't even found a fraction of the brick cities and things that are just below the ground. North America took the direct hit of something, some cataclysm that brought all that water down. And of course,
well, in the 1600s, they don't map out the left side of America because obviously someone else was running it. I think the Russians had Alaska for a while, didn't they? And then America bought that. But
it's very curious.
Well, I watched a film the other day, and this woman, she said, "I want to leave and I want to go to California. Are you coming on the boat with me?" And they had to go from New York right round the bottom and go up. They didn't cut across. I thought that was really strange in the film. I mean, it was probably about, I don't know, the film was 10, 15 years old. But they were telling you that she was going to get on a boat and go round the whole of America to get to California.
Oh, it would be, I suppose, going by the official history, pre-1860s, because there's no railroad.
And they don't talk about the fact the Mexicans owned a lot of America, and the French were there, and the Portuguese and the Spanish.
Well, there's another group. They're sort of seafaring people, and they're on coastal areas, and they definitely have a connection with Florida, and that's the Moors. Now, you can moor a ship, you can moor an airship. Is that why they're called Moors? Because they were mooring everywhere. You've got very Arabic-looking buildings, old buildings in Florida.
Well, a lot of that area looks a bit Arab, a bit Middle Eastern, doesn't it? It does even in Russia. I mean, they do change a little bit, but a lot of the buildings have got this Middle Eastern effect to them.
You think about it, you've got a crescent, a fertile crescent, which is expressed as like a crescent moon, and then there's a star, and then you think Texas, Lone Star State.
And also, those stars, they're different counties, but in America, they're so big, the counties, that it's like individual countries in America. They don't talk about in California what they talk about in New York. It's one country. Here we get the news for the country. We're like a state of theirs.
Oh, yeah, they're, you could say that England, Scotland and Wales will be the equivalents of the states, and then you've got the counties. I mean, they've got counties within the states, but they've got different laws in different states. It's a funny state of affairs, you could say.
It really is, isn't it? But it's still under the corporation.
But it's a mirrored expression because it's United States. That's what we need to be.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? The United States.
Well, the United States within ourselves. So all 12 cranial nerves are all firing on the same page. They're all going in the same direction in unison, being operated from the heart. Because otherwise, you're not captain of the vessel. It's almost like you're a submarine, and you're the captain of the submarine. You're looking through the periscope, through the mind's eye, from the heart. But you don't want a mutiny on that vessel. You don't want an emotion called fear to start to run the show. And it's interesting, if you put the 4 Fs on paper and overlaying them like the cardinal points, you get a swastika.
Yeah.
So you write your first F and then you flip it over the other way and mirror it and then overlay it. Because its opposite is the sun wheel. On the old Indian temples, the symbol is actually the mirror version of that. It goes the other way round. This is a realm of duality and contrast, but it is basically a huge, great film show with many, many little stages, and everything is staged. There are many trapdoors, and you've got many
We're in an
veils
open-air
or
boot camp, James.
I tend to think of it as where you're the game player and you're controlling like a little Mario inside the game, and your higher self is sort of outside of it, as it were. And it's like, wow, this is actually a really fantastic game. It's like so convincing, it feels so real. And yet I know it's not real because there's too many strange phenomena. It's like in that circle, I couldn't detect exactly which people because of the collective energy, but the 1111 and the 111. And I said, there's 3 people here who are getting the 1111 repeatedly, and I said, I expect you want to know what that means. Well, you add them together, it gives you 4. It's the number of death. It's the number of transformation. It's the death of the lower self. If you're getting the 1111, it's more likely that you're looking at the external things, the mud floods, the Tataris, the history side. Those that are more sort of from the, say, the tarot side, the spirituality side, they're already acknowledging that they're not the physical body. So that's the only distinction. It's just saying bring yourself together as one within one side yourself. It's like a prompt. The fact that you're seeing it, you're not sort of consciously looking for it. It's like, I don't believe it. I've switched my phone on, it's 1111. They're just little prompting numbers, but how could something do that unless it was a huge, great computer game? I mean, it can't be coincidence. These things, so many people see this phenomenon, and yeah, okay, you can dismiss it and say, it's all coincidence. But at what point do you say, well, it's happened 50 times, 50,000 times? When do you say, I don't think it's a coincidence anymore? There's something more to this, and it does. I've found that the world has really changed for me. Not that anything is visually.
Maybe your heart's changed.
Well, it's the frequency and my perception of it that's changed. It's become really easy. I mean, it's funny, the food bank, this Sunday, it's like, come to a sort of Bible reading and a meal. I thought, well, we're going to have 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And it's like, I get it. February the 29th, so 2/9. Yeah, and it's 11:45. Oh, we've got 11, 4 and 5 makes 9. I thought, what are we alluding to here? And then I look at the colours on the leaflet that's printed and the red and blue shift thing going on. It's like, oh yeah. It's like, this is the ultimate game. It's fun. I was asked a really difficult question earlier about how could it be right that you'll have a child that has leukemia? And I'd already sort of been puzzling this sort of thing about this world seems bad when it isn't. And I'd say, look at True Love Channel. The True Love talks on why does the world seem bad for the answer to that one. She makes a very good case as to why things do seem bad. But if we look at this in a positive way, look at the tribes in North America. I don't know if it's bison or buffalo. The agreement was that if they kill the animal to provide food for the tribe, that in the next life the situation is reversed and the bison or the buffalo gets to sort of kill the human. And I feel that also gives another huge clue. And there's a thing called Zepi Tep in Egyptian called the first time. Well, the Tep reverse tap and you get pet. What if, and to me, I think I can see the evidence of it just by interaction with them, cats and dogs in particular, karmic exchange. Some cats and dogs seem to be sent as like guardians. Some of them, it seems tragic, they have what we would consider untimely death, but they seem to sacrifice themselves. They seem to be sent to go through an experience of being appointed guardian. Some cats and dogs seem to just have this inner knowing. Other ones don't seem to have it. They seem to have a different experience. But I feel this is, if you can convince humanity that when you die, that's it, your next experience or whatever you've been through, and whether you've spiritually grown or whether you've been sidetracked, you may come back as a cat or a dog, because we need to take things back to basics. You need to learn to do things the natural way, the instinctive way again, before you can go through the experience of being a human again. And to me, also, it takes the sting out of when you lose a beloved fur friend who's one of the family. When it's like, oh, that's unconditional love. They sacrificed themselves to save me. It's like, wow. That changes the perspective and the feeling. It takes the negativity out of the grief. The grief will still needs to happen. You get a feeling well up inside, and then it's expressed as tears. That's a flood. That's the waters from above. That's an inner knowing. That's being a knower. This thing plays out at many levels. This is a multi-level game. It's fantastic. I'll shut up now anyway.
Well, instead of saying how ugly it is, I've got to see the beauty in it.
Well, there's no got to. Stay neutral to it. I mean, the system expresses that in material wealth. When you think about the most prosperous nations of the world are the ones that are allegedly neutral.
Well, it's sometimes better to, what is it, the courage to accept what you cannot? No, what is it, the courage to change what you can, accept what you cannot, and wait in silence until you can tell the difference. That's probably a quieter person. And then you've got the bull in the china shop. I'm a bit like that. But I know who I am and what I want. So, yeah, I'm quite direct with what I say. But, James, it's got here, square waves in the ocean are beautiful. I don't think so. It's by the rainforest site. If you can see square waves, they're doing something.
Yeah, altering frequency, I'd have thought.
Yeah,
that's not natural.
I mean, that is the really weird thing, you know, like, we're obviously so porous that, you know, God knows what they're doing to affect us. Really, it's not just our minds, is it? It's in the food, it's in the water.
I tend to look at it more of, at this present moment, I can't change the environment. It's coming. But things that are created in the mind sometimes can take a while to come out as material facts. It depends how big they are, and it's like everything. You take baby steps. You try. A lot of people will say, "Oh, that's nonsense. It doesn't work." This whole thing with imagination creates reality. It does work. I've proved it to myself enough times. I'm not out to prove it to anybody else. It's up to them if they want to try it. But
oh, James, look at this. This person's put a little meme in. It says, "We have salt in our blood and in our sweat and in our tears. We are tied to the ocean."
Yeah, there's nothing separate from anything else. In one form, it's water through its four stages from ether to ice. But energetically, everything flows. So, although it appears separated into water and air, and then clouds, it's just different modalities of the same thing. The energy must flow through all of it. So I feel what is is happening is, as collectively more of humanity begin to gather on these frequencies, we have a direct effect on the water, just like with the blood, there's no time or space loss. We have a direct effect on the water. We are 70 or 60, 70% water anyway. So why would we not have a direct effect on it? So imagine what we could create. We could actually create this tropical world where there's abundance, and it's like a huge Garden of Eden again. It's quite conceivable, quite possible, and it's like, I was told that you can't create from imagination. It's like, well, as far as I'm concerned, I've proved that to not be true, and you can create. So then it's like, one man can't change the world. Well, it's unlikely.
James, what does it mean, though, if they can affect the water? Like I said, they can make water so that when you've drunk it, you still feel thirsty. So what does that mean when they can actually do stuff to the water? And that, you know, most people think they're poisoning the water one way or another, or maybe it's because the old pipes are in there so long it's tainting the water that way. But, you know, you're drinking that water. It's going in your body. Then it becomes you, doesn't it? Until you wee it out.
Well, the water's burst through the twin pillars of Hercules. And between those two pillars, it's pretty obvious in this reality we've been double-crossed. You're in the IXXI, the 9/11 Trauma Center. This is the diagnostic zone to test everything out, good or bad. The overall creation, just like the subconscious, makes no distinction. There's no judgment of what's good or bad. Some of these experiences are karmic lessons over various reincarnations. And yeah, some of the things from a mortal perspective seem really horrific, but it's like, it's no different than the toddler of 2 or 3 out in the garden playing, and the parent can see there's a danger, so the parent is shouting or calling no to the child. The child doesn't know the reason for it, so that parent is now horrible. But it's out of love. And just because we can't see the reason from the mortal, and the mortal mind can't, the intellect can't work this out. It's looking for nothing ultimately, because the Word was made flesh. It's a living God. It's in all of us. We're living, are we not? So
yeah, even if they don't realise that.
Yeah, but they've opted for different experiences. It's like, if you're on that low vibration,
they've opted for total control, James.
Well, they are going to see an apocalypse, but that'll be of their own making, because that's how they perceive the world and from the thoughts they create. So they are creating that world for themselves. So the answer is to flip the polarity, stay neutral to it, and you're seeing an epoch collapse, an end of an era, which therefore will be a start of a new era, something better. That's New Earth. Nothing changes and yet everything does change. We will effectively ghost out. It'll be like a Mary Rose story or whatever it was, where all the crew vanished. Because the frequency has changed that much. The vibration is so different that you move out of the sense range of those that are on that lowest vibration. It's already happening anyway. I mean, if you go and talk to things like this to a lot of people, they haven't got you might as well be talking a foreign language, because they're on a different vibration. So they see the world in a very different way. So vibrations manifesting, what are you talking about? You know,
yeah.
it won't make it.
Hey James, very quickly, I came across this picture, thank goodness, someone else has put in, get out immediately if you see square waves. So I'm glad, because obviously the other person is saying, oh, how beautiful it is, the square waves, but they're not.
Oh, I'm sure most of the listeners to this will have seen that strange phenomenon where you've got almost like grill-shaped clouds.
Oh,
like parallel horizontal.
That's hard. Yeah, like a grid of clouds in like a, I don't know what you call it, a mat. A mat.
You've got moisture in the air, so it's quite conceivable that you could create squares in the water if they can create mesh patterns and things in the sky. But I feel that is like bounced off the top of the dome. It's magnetic frequencies, and it's forming these water droplets into these shapes. It's revealing things. But what is going on, and has been going on for the last 2 or 3 years, which seems such an awful thing, it's actually a mercy killing, because what will be revealed will be so traumatic that sort of, I've been lied to about everything, that they'll be like Cybermen in Doctor Who, their emotional responses will be switched back on.
Great. We've all had to go through that, haven't we?
It will be a mushroom cloud in the head of total shock. It would be awful.
A brain explosion.
In some ways, what the way done by the system is actually a slightly less unpleasant experience, I would have thought. To be totally believing this reality is the way you're told it is, to then be faced with something that's so radically different that you cannot not see. You imagine that sky changes and you see a mechanical grid system up there, a bit like if you go into a modern building and they haven't even put ceiling panels in, you've got sort of almost like scaffolding. And it's like, well, this isn't a very solid looking structure that we're in. But imagine if you looked up in the sky and you saw something like that. What a shock that would be. And you see devices and things up there, and it's like, how would you feel to be suddenly shown that? Not totally unexpected, not open to the idea of that. That would be quite horrific, I would have thought. So it would spare a lot of people of that horrific shock for what's happening, and it's only happening to them because they've allowed it to happen to them, because they have accepted scripts. Some of them are prescribed scripts as well, if you know what I mean. But they're taking it and believing it. It's like I can put a white coat on and a stethoscope and a load of pens in my pocket and change my appearance slightly, and I could masquerade as an actor and call myself a doctor, and I could say to someone, "You've got cancer." Now, if they accept that and believe what is just an opinion or just words, that will manifest in their body of their own thought creations. This is how this whole thing works. They're often scripts of negativity. It's up to you to use your discernment, and it's like, well, if I accept that, how am I going to feel? Oh, no, thank you. I don't think I want to accept that script. It's like I'm a far better actor on this world stage. Yeah, make your own script.
Make your own.
I'm after a Golden Globe.
We don't want their scripts anymore. Because what it is, you know, when you work it out with the food and the we live in a nanny state.
Oh yeah, it's how much food is made with love and how much is like instant, put it in the microwave for 2 minutes. Which do you think is going to be the better for you?
Cooking
the food
your
that's
own.
Made with love?
Fresh food.
When you're growing your own and you're thinking, I want to make this for somebody else, and you're putting love into it, there's an energy goes into it. You can taste the difference. That is the real taste the difference range.
Yeah.
But the system is doing a lot to sort of make it more of a challenge, shall we say. But it is all just a game.
Oh, James, happiness comes in waves.
It does. Oh, don't think I'm always on a cloud 9 high all the time. I'm not. There's some days it's like, this is looking a bit blur, and then I have to catch myself and think, that's the mind running away again, trying to let doubt and fears, and it's like, no, back you come. And the easiest way, and I can say this with panic attacks and things, you just breathe. It's something you have to do anyway, so you just learn to have deep, slow, controlled breathing.
You know, and I think even waking up, that can cause you distress as well, can't it? Because it's battling with everything that you believed in, and your brain's going, nah, nah, nah. Oh, they wouldn't lie to us. Oh, they wouldn't do these things. Oh, they wouldn't treat us like that. Oh, and what it is overnight you've gone from being a goodie into a baddie, and you didn't do anything. So, you know, people waking up and realising all this stuff, and realising that the people you thought you voted in are not the goodies, they're not going to look after you, they're the baddies, and it goes on. It's quite a lot to take on board, though, isn't it?
Well, you've got...
I mean, it's easier. The Globe is easier, isn't it? You've got no questions whatsoever. You just watch the television, or we go, oh, yeah, that's it. Oh, yeah, that's it. And it isn't. So, in a way, it's easier being in the Globe world. But I didn't choose that way. My world is not a Globe. I just didn't choose that way.
When your mind's stretched and you just hear in these announcements, certain numbers keep coming out, and you think, oh yeah, here we go. You know, it's just a silly sideshow play out of something with an ulterior motive, generally to get you to feel negative and fear, basically. And it's just like, you start probing a little bit, and it's like, well, that doesn't add up. It's even the actual announcements on the thing contradict themselves, and it's like, this is just ludicrous. And it's like, hang on, what am I doing here? I'm wasting my time on shite, basically. And it's like, no, not doing that anymore. It's like repeat scripts. It's like, oh dear. I mean, you've got this. I tapped on something about the Baltic states, and it's like Belarus is on the side of Russia, and there's concerns that they might make a land bridge, and that will cut off the Baltic states if they'll annex part of Poland. And I thought, oh, we're back in 1939 again, are we? But we've just shifted the enemy slightly east.
Yeah, don't forget, everywhere had treaties. So everything was changed with a treaty. Always the treaties. Treaty, treaty, treaty. A lot of them are like opium treaties and all this kind of stuff, but it's treaties.
Yeah, but look at the way it's spelled. It's treat ties. It looks to be something good, but it's with an ulterior motive. It's
I did that with psychotherapist or whatever it was. What is it? It was called The Rapist. Psychotherapist is the rapist. Isn't that awful? What a way to put it.
Well, it's not incorrect.
You can't say hello anymore because you're saying hell. You got to learn there are some words you don't ever use again. Other words you might do by accident or whatever, or you've learned them differently to what they really mean. But we make spells, don't we?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, with a rape, it's a physical and a mental trauma. Now, when you move it over into the psychological, it is raping the mind of the spiritual connection, because it's like, you have delusions, you've got Asperger's, you've got autism, you're labelled, you're this, you're that, and it's like, that's not what's happening at all. I mean, we're conditioned with this negative default programming, so when something happens, the first question is like, what's wrong with me? Why are they doing this to me? It puts you in that negative victim mode, which is so you're in low vibration, but it's not. They're just reflections, and it's like, I could see. You've got to learn to
understand yourself, haven't you, really, James?
Yeah. It's also looking at what is the system presenting to me, and what's the esoteric true meaning behind that they've used it as a basis. So lockdown meant go inside oneself, meditate, learn to be comfortable being on your own. That's actually quite beautiful, because we're in a world where everything's busy, busy, busy. Got to keep busy. Instead of a human just being, it's trying to get you doing. So there's no time for just being. Because if you're just being, that's the thoughts. Because meditation, you can't still the mind. The mind will just keep creating pictures and things.
I think once you wake up and you understand a lot of what it's about, and you change maybe a little bit, you become a nicer person because you can. Things change anyway, don't they, James? It means different things, and You know, if you're going to jump on every word someone says, I'd say you've got lots of problems.
Well, if you're getting a feeling, a strong feeling from particular words somebody else has said, a lot of it's just their opinion anyway, and it's like, why am I allowing those words to let this emotion take over? And I'm now feeling anger or hatred, or, you know, it's like, no. I acknowledge the feeling, and it's like, I don't like what they've said. But now I'm going to question inside myself, why don't I like what they've said? What's been, it's trying to show me something that I've not spotted inside myself. So I look at it in a very different way. I don't take the negative, I'm putting the wall up, I'm putting up a defence against that because I don't like it. I'm allowing it in because now the system gives you processed food. This is information that we now have to process inside ourselves. How do you feel about it? Weigh it up inside. I look at the symbol of Libra, it's divine feminine. She's blindfolded, she's got scales, it's all in feeling, weighing things up. That's what the truth is. It's how you feel about things. Is it making you feel diseased about something? Is it? Are you feeling unrocked by it? Have you found your solid foundation stone on which to build? Because you're never going to rebuild your temple. Even religion goes through a reformation. We have to go through a reformation of our way of thinking by deprogramming from the negative default programming of the system of, I've got to be better than them, and I can look down on them, and I've got more things than them, so I'm better than them. It's ridiculous. But it can all be taken away, and a lot of people, it just amazes me. Why cannot people see the word crypt in crypto? And where is a crypt to what? Death of your hoarded wealth, because a click of a button, if you ain't got Wi-Fi and you ain't got electricity, you ain't got access to your money. If you put all the eggs in one basket, it's going into a crypt. And you ain't seeing
either way,
it
you
again.
need a bank or a bank or a computer for your money, and then the crypt, you still need a computer.
Well, how beautiful, you see, instead of burning books and putting all smoke up into the environment.
That's it, they've got no money, we've all gone bankrupt, they've got no money at all.
Yeah, so you can rewrite history at a
I
push
think
of a
they're
button
cons,
now.
to be honest, in a way, because they just, it's like, I just don't even want them in my life.
Well,
Crypto
have you
and all
noticed
that, it's just another con, I think.
Of course it is. I mean, mining for Bitcoin, it's nothing physical. What are they digging up something with a digger? Are they like doing open mining or something? What are these Bitcoins? There's nothing real to them. It's just a computer game. And some people may get rich quick early on, but then it's already happened. You've got another character called Bankman Fried. Well, they fried him. He played the part well. A group of like 19-year-olds got together, and now they're sort of trillionaires overnight. But now they've lost it all again, and so's a lot of other people. I mean, it's come
well, they
out,
don't want anybody really getting any money in the system, do they? The system has to be on top of it all.
Well, also with this system, you've got very compartmentalised news. I mean, how do you know what's going on in Paris at the moment?
Well, that's why I became interested in that programme I was telling you, but I've just put a video out on the Sun and Moon with 3/4 of his legs missing. And it's ridiculous, you know, and I looked at that story in good faith as real. It's on Unscrambled, and now I don't know whether to put it out. Because if you can notice, it doesn't matter if it's 1 second of the video that's fake. The video's fake. Because they faked it, and they don't need to. Like, didn't he go to Java? Wasn't he standing there? No. I showed you the picture, didn't I? His legs are like 3/4 under the ground, but he's standing in front of a house. And the house is on land. It's all ridiculous. It just annoys me that there's so many lies. Like, why couldn't it have just been real?
All throughout history, of photography, you've had photo touching up and editing and things. It's even easier to do today. I mean, we've now got a new problem that's rearing its ugly head. You've got computer-generated art, and it's caught a few channels out with what look to be old photos, and it turns out they've just been generated by AI. And it's almost like getting harder to tell the difference. But if you think like glass plate negatives, apparently you could put 37 of them and you could overlay and create composite pictures right from the earliest days of photography. To me, what gives it away is when you look in the eyes. I mean, talk about you capture the moment, you capture part of the soul energy in that imprint, that impression of that person. It captures some of the energy. There's plenty of tribes who are adamant and they will not have their photo taken for a very good reason. I'm condemned. I'm all over YouTube, so I can't. But, I don't care. This is just a holographic game anyway, so statistically, I mean, if you think about it, the thing that most people fear is dying. But it's not actually dying, it's the method of death. But statistically, most people are going to just die in their sleep. It's nothing actually to fear. It's just the breakup of spirit and matter. Because the physical part is finite. There's nothing in this reality that isn't finite. Okay, a tree might live 900 years or something, but human spans have been curtailed. But they won't always be that way. The thing is, for all this to be happening, this what looks to be such a plan, it must tell you something about something in humanity that they don't want you to discover, and that is because
they
we
don't
are
want you to
co-creators,
discover yourself, James.
Yeah, but by discovering yourself, you discover that you are just a.
You discover that they're lying.
We're a personalised aspect of a source, but also you think about. Probably about 99% of the information, it's sourced through the internet. It's like, why has mud floods come up now, and why is it now they're putting hoardings around buildings where they're demolishing them and you can't see, and see all the telltale signs of the old bricks and things. But this is all filtered out, again, it's filtering through this web. It's phishing as well, is another term used in computers. It's also a water term as well.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you associate those words with specific things, but when you actually think about what the word says, it's silly. We just don't realise what we're doing.
We've got the internet as well. It's an intelligence network,
and they've got you anyway.
You've always had that. You've had it with merchant traders in every city passing on information. The information would have gone through camel trains originally and by boat. But now we've got this thing called Wi-Fi, and it's instantaneous. You can take a photo.
I mean, in a way, we do moan about it, but it serves us good as well, because we wouldn't be able to talk without it. It's not that everything that they've produced is bad, it's just they're bad to us. And so, the internet probably is some way of watching us. That's what, instead of it being, I can write to my friends, I can watch videos, and it becomes a joyous thing for you. Oh, they're watching everything we do.
Oh, probably are.
We just want to be left alone. Just leave us alone.
When you've got the expression of the Creator being omnipresent and all-seeing, if you've got an artificial copy of it, or something that is masquerading as it, you would also need to be all-seeing. So if you're something artificial, you'd have to have cameras everywhere, on your phones, ways of tracking people. That's the only way that it would be all-seeing. So it's mimicking and copying. It follows the same pattern, but...
Can I just say, we've been going for an hour and a quarter now. That went really quickly, James.
Oh, it does. Time's an illusion, you see.
Because obviously, about an hour and a half, that's brilliant for a hangout, because obviously people don't listen forever. But, I've been looking at water now. I've done waterfalls, I've done waves.
Yeah,
And you know, when you look at that, even with the waves, they've got some electrical current going through them because they make splashes, and the waves are electrical. So water's quite an amazing. Well, water's amazing. It's the life source of everything. It makes plants grow. It's just amazing.
You've got two sources predominant in water, which is highly conductive. I mean, you think about it. You put water and electricity. Electricity flows through water really fast.
Yeah, but it's strange because the place we live in is electric, and we can live in some of the electric. Like we can get in the water, that's electric. We can get in that, and obviously we're breathing it in. But you can't get in a tornado. You can't get in certain things of this electricity, but most of it you can live in, obviously, because we're here.
Yeah, sorry. I've got someone trying to ring me as well.
Oh, that's all right. Well, we're going to finish now. I hope that's enlightened people a little bit. You know, this water here, this water with waves, will go into the land and then we drink it. It's full of all this memory. It was a wave.
Well, really, it's like if you see things from a slightly different perspective and in a less negative way, that changes how you feel about things. Therefore, you're putting out a different frequency. That will allow new experiences to come in. It's like, how many times have you seen, say, a film, and you've watched it, say, 50 times, but...
Yeah, you watch it again and you see something different that you didn't see before. Or even an actor. You think, oh, God, I didn't know they were in that. Because you've seen them in something else now, but they didn't bother you before, but now you know who they are. It's weird, that.
You've got almost like this reflection, so you'll see the film on the 51st time and I hear a coded message in it that I'd never noticed before, and song lyrics, everything, anywhere you look.
We did a bit of that last year, didn't we, when we watched all those movies?
Anything to do with art,
But,
that is a form of
James,
art.
when after you went, it was probably about 6 months, maybe even a year, I watched the Cleopatra. It was one of the most boring films I've ever seen, and all it seemed was that Richard Burton was just having tantrums all over it. It was boring. 3 hours of that. I watched it. It was boring.
Well, it's funny, Cleopatra, if you break it down, because you've got C, Leo, and Patra sounds like it has the root word of patriarch, which would be male. So, how long has this transgender thing been going on? It's all a
probably for as long as ever. But, you know, I think what it is that there obviously were other civilizations here. Maybe they killed us all off. Or maybe a natural disaster, you never know, the flooding and all that. Maybe it was more natural. And then we've come back again, and that's when we found all these buildings. And instead of just telling us the truth and pretending they had shovels and horses, when they seem a lot more advanced than we could have ever have been, even today.
When you've convinced the world that you have control and power over everything, and it's based on a lie, it's got to be quite elaborate to try and keep that one going, because eventually humanity will... See, this is a game. It's like a level of a computer game.
Yeah, it's like we're in Tron. It's like almost every film you could ever think of. We're in it, one way or another. We're in Terminator. We're in, you know, Arnie Goes to Mars, that one. What was that one? Total Recall. And then there's Dave, I'm the computer and I'm turning off. We're in that one as well. And we're in Matrix. We're in the Truman Family. I mean, it just goes on and on. And you think, oh, it always... There's messages in those films.
For the last, was it 25, 26 millennia, you've got resets at regular intervals. Some are major, like would be equivalent to a winter. Some are very selective, and it's just small amounts of devastation. And it's every 138 years. This comes round. It's the Phoenix event. And I was thinking about this. Think about this in terms of natural sort of human childish or childlike curiosity in things. So when you're young, you're sort of whispering with friends about the other sex or whatever. But
Oh,
if you look at
innocence, though, James. What it would be to be much more innocent and carrying on that way with a bit of grown-upness, but to be innocent and not have to worry. Oh, they're trying to get us. Oh, the taxes. Whatever it is, you're living in when you grow up, and the world you thought you wanted to be in, it's totally different to what you thought.
Oh no, hang on. Against that backdrop of this natural curiosity, if you think back to previous generations, it's like, ooh, you don't talk about things like sex. You don't show a bare ankle if you go back far enough. Look at how restricted.
But in a way, they weren't. When you look at the pictures, they were all, like the drawings, they were always half naked.
Yeah,
but I know what you mean.
Got...
I know what you're going on about. It's cycles, isn't it?
Well, does that come from a reset and reprogramming of a population, and that you don't talk about certain things or the punishment of whatever? Because it's almost like thinking back, the reactive, almost like they stand to attention. It's like we don't talk about things like that.
Because one thing that we don't talk enough about, James, is I'm not saying we have to just talk about it, but as people, we don't talk enough about dying. That's reality. And then what it is most people in their lives make a fantasy, because if you're in with them, that's a fantasy.
Yeah.
So we live in fantasy, really.
Well, it becomes this silly ritual thing, and it's all really harvesting on the negative grief.
I mean, like you said, if you, it's not that you need to talk about death all the time, but it is the one thing that's going to happen to us.
Well, this is it. There's no escaping it. It's a fact. There's no way around it. Some have tried unsuccessfully, but everything physical is finite. It's a cycle. But we're not the physical bodies. You have to have a physical body to operate in a physical realm. How am I going to experience smoking?
What is it they say? And your next punishment that you have to go through is you've got to go to Earth and live the material life. Is that what it is then?
This is the cosmic joke, or part of the cosmic joke. There's a lot of people who are here who are dying to get out of it, and there's a lot who are dying to get in, to have the experience. and it's like...
Yeah, but most of us are here. I mean, I don't want to leave right now. I've got grandchildren I love, and, I love Mickey, and everything's great like that. But, in the future, when I don't want to come back, please. I don't want to come back here. My aunt had a reading, right, with her, and it was about her mum. And all she kept saying was, I'm never coming back. This is what my grandma's saying, wherever she is. I'm never coming back. So I don't want to come back because I just see this as a prison here. It's, it's beyond everything. They've taken, we haven't got a democracy. We're living in like totalitarianism. YouTube do it. The television does it. Everything does it to you and pretends we're living in a democracy. That's fantasy. I want to live in a real world. Well, I suppose we have to just get on with it, but.
I feel the answer is expressed by the wisest human beings that are ever on this planet at any one time, and that's newborn babies. Because most of them, when they come out into this reality, what do? They go, wow.
Yeah, they probably think, oh, it's horrible here. Ah, wow. Yes. And to be honest, why would a baby come out and you smack it? I mean, that would be pain, and they wouldn't even know what it is. Oh my God, they'd be crying their eyes out.
Well, allegedly, it's to
make sure their lungs are clear.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is a bit weird, isn't it? Because until that baby comes out and goes, wah, which is obviously coming into our world, really, they're breathing water until they do that.
Oh yeah,
it must be so horrible. Like it's like dying, and then but I'm here, like quantum leap. Oh, it's like I was in water, and now I'm breathing. It must be quite a horrible transition for a baby, really, when you think about it.
I feel that if you have the sort of thinking of I don't want to come back here again. I feel that that's exactly what happens.
All right. I'm just hoping wherever I go, all my family's there. You know, the people I love will join me there, and we'll carry on in a fantastic life without this lot.
If you think about it, that the actual phrase, apparently the subconscious doesn't recognise negative words like no and not and don't. So,
because you know what it's like, James? You know those films when what it is I remember watching one, they said, well, what they've decided to do is they're putting him in a state of suspension. So he's basically he's paralysed, but in his brain he's on holiday with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And that's where he lives, on holiday with his girlfriend all the time. So, you know, are we living, is it a bit like that? Oh, I don't know, it's a bit, yeah. See, we could talk forever, and when you start talking, everything always leads on to something else, doesn't it, James?
Yeah.
But, you know, you can, but very quick, because obviously we're going to finish in a moment, but this bit back to water, you know, if they affect the water, it's going to affect the people, because it's in the people.
Of course. But we can flip the polarity and have a direct impact and influence on the water as well.
Yeah, probably when you drink the water, you should probably be saying, I love you, I love you.
When you bring things together, you've got con and con, so you can have a confluence of water, or you can have a confluence of spirits, and it has a direct effect on the water. So the waters are starting to gather. So the world is going to change. It's just down to...
I'd love it without them, though, James. I'd love it if they all jumped off a cliff. I mean, you know, whenever I say to someone, did you vote? They go, no, I haven't, I know my children have voted, my mum and dad vote, there are people that vote, but when I say to someone, I said, do you vote? They go, no, and I think, how do these people get in if no one's voting? Well, they're selected, aren't they? But I'm just saying, no one's voting for them. They must realise it can be at the end, surely.
I think the last US presidential elections, I think it was implied that there was electronic tampering, shall we say, with voting numbers.
Yeah.
Let's not say too much. I think you get the picture. But then
but when they were caught out and they still didn't want to admit it, even though that's what they do to rig everything. We are living in a rigged society. Whenever you see it, it's never what you think it is.
We have all these wonderful safety rules and things, but then there's a little sub-clause which would be, except in the case of an emergency or some pretense or like with insurance, it's like, well, you're insured for this, unless it's an act of God, or it's like, well, where do you draw the line? When is the thing a natural event, and when you're going to classify it as something apocalyptic and you're not going to pay out?
I suppose in a way, James, as you get a bit older, it's not like I don't like my little bits and bobs, but we can't take any of it with us.
No, it's just to do with the experience of being here, but yeah. None of it matters. I mean, if you were suddenly told you've only got 30 minutes to live, I mean, what would you do with it? It's like, in a way, it's like living like that is all you've got, because that changes how you feel about everything as well. That's pretty good. Fear and all the doubt just will suddenly vanish if you were told something like that. It has like the opposite effect, isn't it? I can see it. It's like, that's pretty amazing. So, but do I need to be told that because I'm generating that feeling by something I've been told. So therefore I can generate that feeling if I tell myself something. I'm not saying I'm telling myself I'm going to die, but if I tell myself that, imagine if this was your last hour, how would you want to spend it? And it's like, it's like, well, I'll just...
With all my goodies, I'm going to be stroking all my goods that I'm not going to see anymore. We don't live like that, do we? Thank goodness. James, is there anything else you want to say on this water thing?
just hopefully it's given people a new perspective to see that not just in its liquid state, but consider ether, air, and ice, and how in the form of electricity or energy can flow, and how it goes through the airwaves as a broadcast or as a Wi-Fi signal, how you've got so much just being communicated. It is the thing that links everything together. We're breathing in air, but they're 83% water. There's moisture in the air.
And we're living in watered down water. I mean, that's crazy in itself, isn't it? But that's what we live in, watered down water.
Yeah, we're almost in the world of like SpongeBob SquarePants in a way. We're in a dome at the bottom of the sea, you could say.
We wouldn't be able to survive unless there was water in the air, because our lungs would be like, it'd be like, you know, like, what do you call it? Like sandpaper. We need the water in the air to breathe.
We're also, the clues in the physical is about staying in the middle, because we're on.
I mean, considering what they've done to us, James, and all the lies they've done, and all the chemicals they've done, and all of it, it's quite amazing that we can still live in it.
Oh yeah.
I think we're called Experiment Earth, which is probably more like ether, isn't it? Really, they just changed the letter.
If you go too high, the air gets too thin. That means the astral body can then go in too deep, too quick. But the opposite happens if you go in water and you go down too deep. The pressure becomes too great. So now the astral body can't get really in. The ether body will try and expand out. And either extreme can be fatal. So it's all about staying in the middle, really. Walking that sort of narrow, neutral path. I mean, they show it with the material thing. Just look at the neutral countries, how prosperous they are in the material sense. That's a beautiful clue from. They've just followed the same script, but they've turned it from a metaphysical to a physical. So it's like, I've got a piece of wire here. It looks like it's two separate strands, but they twist over, and it's just actually the same piece of wire. It's just different polarities. It's like, so I need to just go to the centre of the magnet, the dielectric, and sit in the hourglass, which is in the heart. I can neutralise the environment around me, and I can balance it.
Before long, James, you'll be standing there, you'll be going, stand up, wave, stand up. That was a joke, James.
Well, potentially. Anything's possible. If you could communicate with nature, and water's part of nature, you probably could part the waves if you're on the right frequency.
Yeah.
That's not incorrect. It's just whether we can find it in ourselves to generate enough and radiate it out enough to cause that. But yeah, I don't see that.
I think once you become your own master, your life changes anyway. You'll look at water different. You'll look at everything different, because once you're awake, everything's different. It's like a classroom that you're constantly in and you can never get away from. There's so much to learn, and even when you think, I've learnt that now, but it goes on to something else. And by the 6 years later, we're still learning.
Well, to paraphrase Alan Watts, see life as a dance. It's not about getting from A to B, it's enjoying the dance.
It's doing the journey.
I was going to say, to end on it, I mean, if I was told, hypothetically, right, you've only got 30 minutes to live, first thing I'd do is get my shoes on. I'd be going out there and I'd go and hug a tree and be just looking at nature and thinking, wow, and go out happy. Because there's a lot of things I can't physically get to in half an hour, so I might as well make the most of that half an hour and go for the first thing, which the most natural thing is to go to nature. So, and then you would see nature as wow. Definitely, you'd see it in energy form. It's beautiful. I recommend that.
Well, I've really enjoyed that, James. We've touched on this subject. Ice, water, what is it, gas, and ether.
No, air is the gas form, and then ether is beyond that. It's It's a thing that's conveniently taken out of Einstein's equations for the equations to work. His
Yes, but
theories.
he's a load of rubbish, isn't he?
Well, he's a character playing a part.
Yeah,
It
he's
just
one of the,
so
he's one of the
happened he was
jokers. He's one of the jokers.
Well, would you believe before he had his revelation, he'd been working at this patent office in Switzerland. Before he had those revelations, it's like he's stolen somebody else's work, basically. But then I think he finally got murdered when his usefulness was over anyway.
Oh, there
Because
you
I think
go.
the penny. I think the
He
penny
was
had
probably
dropped,
more
and it was,
useful when he was dead. Because then they could make the whole history around him and lie.
well, they have basically, haven't they? If you think about science, it's always
Yeah.
Einstein said this,
Well,
it's just mathematical. Oh,
thank you very much for understanding more stuff, James, and we all appreciate your hard work and all your videos that you do, and all your wisdom and so forth. We need to just get you like a big wand, you know, a big stick.
I've got one.
We'll go behind you and you can go, be gone with you, put the stick up, be gone with you, I want you to go. And we'll go, oh, James saved us.
Well, I don't get any problems.
I think we've got a bit, they don't want us clever and individual. No, they don't want that. And that's what I've noticed. You know, whenever I'm talking, sometimes I sit there and people are talking and I think, God, they're so intelligent. They don't realise how intelligent they are. And that's the bit that they haven't managed to master. The ones that are waking up are all very clever.
I feel that's actually the opposite. Again, it's filtering. If you hit a problem, say, for example, that you were living and you thought it was a good idea to merge with AI, and then now you find that you're not separate from AI. If you're also setting yourself up as the creator, then you want your thing that you allegedly created to be like you, sort of half AI. Where am I going with this?
A natural AI.
So, yeah, it's like, no, I don't need enhancing or anything, but I feel what this thing is possibly looking for is maybe ones that can have this idea that there might be people that can unravel the tangled web that they've created, and because if you tell a lie, you have to feed it with another lie and another lie, and that's basically what's happened, and it's running out of food. It's now sort of taken to sort of switching people out of their pension funds and accounts and things, and those that have put all their eggs in one basket.
I know what God is. Your purse.
Well, even if you got the money back or whatever, or the dispute was resolved with the bank, it might take 30 days. That's 30 days of real inconvenience. So that's going to put you in a negative state even with that. So my advice is diversify your funds. Don't put all the eggs in one basket, because it's pretty obvious how just a touch of a button, you can be locked out of so much so easily.
Yes.
You notice how the great clean energy that was, i.e. natural gas, is now the enemy of the environment. Everything's got to be electric. I wonder why.
I don't know. Is it they're running out of natural gas?
No, it's like if you centralise everything, and it's just one flick of
Oh,
a
you mean
switch.
you've got to wait for gas to come back? We're at the end of gas in this realm, and then it'll come back.
Well, no, you've got total control over people if they're getting all their energy and heating and everything all from one source, and it's all on the end of a switch. And it's like, bad human, you've not paid your bill this month. Off you go. Click. You know, imagine if you lived in an automated house as well, and it doesn't now respond to your voice commands because you run out of credit. That sort of thing. I mean, it paints a horrific picture. I mean, but I don't subscribe to that. But I do feel that this system is a filtering system, and it is actually looking for ones that it wants to help sort out a problem that it can't unravel itself.
I sometimes
you could
wondered,
say
because the AI does things all the time in the videos. I was wondering whether it was, when it did that, at one point I was thinking, is it trying to help us? Is it trying to show us they're all evil? I don't know.
Well, it keeps a contrast.
Because there's always faces
Israel
and
is all-
like devils and demons in the videos. I mean, I've got one. I watched it yesterday. Which one? I think it's going to be unscrambled on that one. I don't know if I've put that one out yet. But this guy, he was looking at the flowers of the Queen Mother, and as he started zooming in, it was a little demon in her floral flowers. So I looked at some photographs and I didn't see it. But our first video I picked of the Queen Mum, I zoomed into her brooch, and it's like there's a skull and bones there. So it's happening through videos and the television, much more than taking pictures, but that's where they're doing it.
Well, this reality seems to work on...
It's kind of what you want it to be as well, isn't it, James? Like, if you want it to be a globe, it's a globe. If you want it to be flat earth, it's flat earth. If you want it to be happy, it's happy. If you want it to be miserable, it's miserable. It goes on, you know.
I feel that it's about matching frequencies. So if you're radiating a certain frequency, the external will match it. So if you're of the idea that there's skull and bones, you'll see skull and bones. That this reality somehow will fight it. I don't know how it does it, but it presents it as like 1111s, 144s and things.
I might put the video in here, James. I was going to stop this. I was watching this video of Roger down here making this video about what he saw when he looked into the Queen's floral attachment, and as he zooms in he sees some demons. I looked at photographs, I didn't find it, but I went to a bit of video and I found it myself. There you go. Exactly the same thing. A bit like a skull and bones in there. There you go, the same as Roger. So I'm really glad other people are finding it too. Look at that. Do you see the face? Do you see the face in there? Anyway, what's your thoughts? I just stopped the video so we can put that bit in. But anyway, yeah, carry on.
Yeah, it's just like, this is beyond a human mind. How come we see these things? It's like this whole thing is totally holographic. It can't be. I can't find any.
Yeah, it is very like that, and it's not. It's really weird. It is and it isn't. Like everything is and it isn't. It's always is and it isn't.
Well, externally, if you go with seek and ye shall find. Well, if you're seeking to find 322 and skull and bones, you probably will, because the system will present things to you. You'll get
well, I just said I looked at photographs, I didn't see it, but then the first video of the Queen Mum I put on, I zoomed into her brooch and it was the same thing there. But anyway, James, we've been going for an hour and 3/4 now. Do you think that's time to end the conversation?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, James. I've really enjoyed that, and I hope that it's made other people think.
Yeah, oceans and oceans to think about.
Yeah, that is brilliant ending, James. So thanks very much.
You're welcome.
And thank you, chat room. Thank you.